everybody to Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul. Adam Freeman here on June the 9th, 2020. Getting ahead of myself here in Atlanta, Georgia. Paul Brees is in Brentwood, Tennessee. And Brees, this is a big deal for us tonight. He's
a little bit of the bubbly.
He's got the bubbly there. We're going to uncork it there. It's our 50th episode tonight. You know, our first one was March 26th, and we've been pretty consistent. We don't do one on Saturday night or Sunday night, but we've tried to have one pretty much every night of the week. Done a few different things on Friday nights with a Friday night trivia, then Facebook Live. We did that a couple times. We did the draft one night, but we try to at least have some kind of content for you guys. And all of a sudden, I look at the account today, and boom, this is our 50th episode. So for everybody that's supported us on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and follows us on those platforms, as well as follows us on Twitter at D3Sports, and subscribes to our YouTube channel, which is Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul. We appreciate you guys, and we're going to keep doing it, man. We're going to keep doing it. And, like you said last night, you're like, gosh, I hope something happens in between now and then in sports. And sure enough, something broke that's not on our list, but we're going to touch on it before we get into because you mentioned last night, you said, look, we can go on and on wondering what baseball is going to do, because at this point they're just playing tennis. Okay. MLB says something, then MLBPA says we'll do this, and then MLB's like, no, well, how about this? And they're like, oh, well, we can do this. Well, the MLB said, look, 76-game season, that was yesterday. Well, at least MLBPA didn't wait a week to respond. They said, okay, how about an 89-game season with 100% proration? Okay, MLBPA doesn't understand the fact that the owners do not want to pay them full salaries no matter how many games they play. And the more games they play at full salaries, they lose more money. They are not going to do that, okay? And they just have to understand. They just have to understand that. But they're refusing. They're just like, well, okay, well, we'll play a few more games, but we want 100% of our pay. That's never going to happen.
Yeah, one of the greatest quotes I heard today is, you got a bunch of billionaires fighting with millionaires for little or no reason at all.
Yeah.
And I know you're a baseball purist and everything, but it wouldn't bother me a bit.
Yeah,
if we took a year off.
It's killing me because honestly, tomorrow night, Friday night, I was supposed to go Dodgers Braves. Saturday night, I was supposed to go Dodgers Braves. Sunday afternoon, Dodgers Braves. I had tickets for the whole series this weekend, not happening. So I'm decked out in all my Dodger gear today, just sort of in like a little in mourning, I guess. But anyway, maybe they'll get it figured out. Somebody that did get it figured out gets to our next topic here. Apparently, USC finally buried the hatchet with Reggie Bush. Is that correct?
I mean, that's what sources are saying.
So they're welcoming him back with open arms. What's the deal?
The disassociation is about to end, and possibly after 10 years of this, it's welcome back. Possibly retiring his dormant number 5, and who knows what could be on the horizon. Maybe with the Heisman Trophy as well.
Wow.
I mean, that's just a funny situation how they stripped it from him, basically took it off his mantle.
Yeah.
And, said, sorry, Reggie.
Man, I mean, and I guess the whole thing was like, improper benefits. And
the funny part is, I mean, Adam, if you look at the improper benefits that apparently he was alleged to have, I mean, it was just like travel expenses, like and living rent-free with his parents for a year, and they were provided like $10,000 to furnish that apartment. $10,000? I mean, these guys nowadays are getting hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Wow. That's it's when you put it in perspective like that, yeah, it's against the rules, but I mean, if Reggie Bush was getting 10, I mean,
yeah,
he was top of the market probably at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and other guys were getting cars and, cash under the table, envelopes and all that sort of stuff. He just happened to be the guy that was on the forefront, national champion, and Heisman Trophy winner. Then everybody starts to, kind of take a little bit closer look.
Hey, you know what they say, Adam? If you're 0-10, nobody cares.
Nobody's looking into how the Lions went 0-16.
That's right.
Nobody cares about that. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, winning brings eyeballs, and people are watching, and nobody knows that more than the guy that we talked about on our show before, Zion Williamson. With all this coming down, now they're moving backwards on him, saying that he may not have to.
Obviously.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. It's crazy. All right, which gets us to a very unique story. With again, Michael Jordan really been in the news more than he has been in the last probably 5 or 10 years, especially since he took over the Bobcats. Are they the Hornets again, or are they still the Bobcats?
That is a great question.
Or do
you threw me for a loop right there.
Yeah. Or does anybody even care? I don't think anybody cares. There's a professional basketball team in Charlotte. I'm not sure what their name is. Hornets, Bobcats, whatever. Why did they change from the Hornets? What was wrong with Hornets?
It's back to the Hornets.
Why were they Bobcats? What's the deal with that? Why were they even the Bobcats why did they change it?
Well, the guy that was the owner of the Hornets, right? They went to the Pelicans.
Oh, okay.
Was that George Shin?
Okay.
And then that's why they changed. I guess the new owners.
When
Michael Jordan.
When they came back to Charlotte, they were the Bobcats. Okay. All right. Anyway, so he's ever since The Last Dance broke, he's been he was the talk of sports for like a month and a half, because we talked about him every Monday. We'd watch the episodes and we were just like, whoa, this is great stuff. This is great TV. So obviously Jordan, with no basketball going on, he's got to find some way to pass the time, right? So he enters a fishing tournament and catches a blue marlin that weighed over 440 pounds.
Well, wait a minute. You may want to kind of build this up a little bit. Not just some fishing tournament.
It's like the Rock Island, like $3 million in prize money, not like Jimmy Joe's, Bill Dam Outdoors. I mean, this is like major money. $3 million purse for this fishing tournament now. And what's funny is, I mean,
and he took his yacht.
Yeah,
it's Catch 23, right?
Yeah,
his yacht and
his 80-foot yacht. Yeah,
and apparently, I think MJ. I mean, even if he wins first place, and currently I think he's in 5th place after you talked about his 442 pound fish that he caught. The picture of his crew, I'm sure he's paying them more than what the prize money actually is. Plus running the boat, and all the costs that go involved with that. All this is just competitive juices.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of probably gambling on the side.
Oh, you don't think he's gambling on who can fish? Shoot. You know it. You know he is.
Yeah. So the guy, total competitor. Hey, you know what I've been watching on ESPN that has kind of got me going is cornhole.
Yeah.
They've been showing like national cornhole championships or whatever.
Yeah.
So my father-in-law built us some.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy. I'm not ready to hit the tour.
We we need to get together then and have a cornhole tourney. Because I love playing cornhole. That's tons of fun. It takes some skill.
Yeah.
It can get pretty competitive.
Well, MJ, we'll see how it turns out. Currently in 5th. I think this thing doesn't end for a couple more days, so apparently they've got a chance.
Crunch time.
Yeah, yeah.
Once it gets to 4th quarter, baby, just give him the rod and reel. Let him cast it.
And a cigar.
And a cigar.
For sure.
Yes, gotta have that. All right. That gets us to another topic, which is more NFL related. We talked a little bit about the mock draft last night that I think some writers did for each of the home teams, and they were the general manager and picked the rosters. It got to me thinking about the fact that there were so many quarterbacks taken with the first pick. That who's the most underrated NFL quarterback in your mind, Paul? Who's the one that just doesn't get the props but gets the job done? Who's your most underrated?
Now, there's varying levels of underrated, in my opinion. The guy that we don't hear a lot from, but know he's a winner, would be Russell Wilson, in my opinion. When I say underrated, I mean, there's a lot of people who like to have Russell Wilson on their team, and I think if he went to a bigger market, guy would be a mega millionaire.
Yeah, and he was the first person that I thought of, and the reason is sort of the same reason why you're thinking about him. It's number one, Pete Carroll runs the ball. He has 2 rings instead of 1. That's the same amount of rings as Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger. Okay, that's 1 more ring than Aaron Rodgers. Okay, so all Pete Carroll has to do is hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch, and Russell Wilson now has 2 rings, and we're not even talking about him as being underrated. We're talking about him as first ballot Hall of Famer, Russell Wilson. Also, when you look at his offensive line and what's around him, he does more. The only person I would say maybe gets more from less would be maybe Carson Wentz at Philadelphia. But he does more with less, and I think it suits his game because he can scramble and he has to scramble a lot of times, but he can make plays on the run. That's one of the things that I like about him, why I think he is underrated. Nobody talks about him because he's not flashy, he's not flamboyant, he's not outspoken. He just gets the job done. And, they go to the playoffs and they've won. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been to 2. And, that to me, that's why he's underrated to me. Just because his supporting cast maybe not as, he's never had that top flight wide receiver. He's got Lockett, but, he hasn't had him his whole career. So I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you on that. With the,
I would say wild card A and B. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Fitzmagic. I mean, the guy can sling it.
Yeah, but he's feast or famine, dude. He's either throwing for 400 yards or he's throwing 5 picks.
I love it. And then I'm going to throw another bone to you, Matt Stafford. Put him on another team with some legit receiver. I mean, you talk about no running game.
Oh, man.
Guys had no help for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, you put him with any sort of O-line or any sort of running game at all, he's all world because he's got the arm talent and the athleticism. And, I agree with that too. He hasn't won. And he hasn't won because he just hasn't had the supporting cast. But it's one of those things where if you're great, you can take, a team that's not great and get them to the playoffs. and win with him if you're great. And I think Russell Wilson's been able to do that. There's a lot of quarterbacks that were great in college because they were surrounded by great players. They get to the NFL, and that's not the case, and you find out they're not that great. I think you're seeing that with Baker Mayfield. He's probably one of the number one ones that come to mind. The great ones will elevate everybody else, and that's what every GM is looking for, that great quarterback. Andrew Luck did it in Indianapolis. All right, so this gets us to our next topic, which I've been looking forward to all day. And Brace, I'm going to let you go with this one since you came up with the topic. You obviously had one scenario that came to mind first when you mentioned best ejections ever. So I'm going to let you run with it, and then I'm going to tell you what I got.
Well, obviously, one of the more clever ejections was the Bobby Valentine New York Mets ejection. Bobby Valentine, the manager of the 1999 Mets, on this day got ejected. The Mets had kind of gone halfway through the season. I think they were 27-28. He had just lost a few coaches, kind of like the assistant coaches kind of fall on the sword, to keep his job kind of deal.
Yeah.
So he was kind of stressed. And I think there was an incident. There was a play. He wanted to challenge it. Obviously, he gets tossed, gets rung up. And lo and behold, an inning later, here comes Bobby Valentine, the manager of the Mets, with a fake mustache on, changed shirt. And this guy –
and he had glasses on, too.
And he had kind of like some sunglasses.
Yeah.
And he somehow made it for a while, but eventually, got called out on it. The funny thing was he had told the Mets management, he says, hey, give me 55 games. We're going to go 40-15 in those next 55 games. And they ended up in those next 55 games going 40-15.
Wow. And that was the year they played the Yankees in the World Series.
They went 99 wild card. They won it in a tiebreaker playoff, and it was their first postseason in 11 years. So Bobby Valentine, the mojo of the ejection. I love
it. Well, I'm going to stick with baseball here. I actually have three that just really stick out to me. This one right here was all over the internet. Picture behind me is a picture of Patrick Wellman, who at the time, I think it was 2012, the manager of the AA Atlanta Braves affiliate, the Mississippi Braves. And he was arguing a call, and I think it may have been a base running call. He proceeds to cover the plate completely now with dirt, about an inch or 2 inches of dirt. He gathers up dirt around the plate. And I posted this on our Twitter at D3 Sports. If you guys want to check out the whole clip of him losing his mind. So he does that first. He then goes down to third base, detaches third base, picks it up, throws it into center field. Okay. As he's walking back, he gets down on all fours and starts crawling behind the pitcher's mound.
Yeah, army crawl
behind the pitcher's mound. And this is after he's thrown out. He has thrown out the third base umpire. He points to the third base umpire, throws him out, and then throws the base. Then Army crawls behind the mound, grabs the rosin bag, acts like he's pulling the pin out of the rosin bag, and then chucks it at home plate, and it lands right in front of the umpire. Just rosin everywhere, chalk. It is
That's awesome.
Listen, if you haven't seen it, and it got probably 200,000 views almost immediately on YouTube. But if you're having a bad day and you need to smile and laugh, you cannot not laugh when he grabs the rosin bag and pulls the pin on it and chucks it at the umpire. It's the funniest thing that I've seen in a while. And so that gets me to my second one. And this is my second one right here. This was July 24th, 1980, I believe. George Brett, the Pine Tar incident. Hits a home run off of Goose Gossage and takes around the bases. Then he's in the dugout. He's getting congratulated. And all of a sudden, Billy Martin comes out, and they're looking at the bat. Wait, there's not. You're apparently. I never knew this rule, but you're not supposed to have pine tar. Can't go all the way to the trademark of the bat. Well, this one exceeded the trademark.
Barely.
Yeah, barely. Then they take it to home plate and they lay it across home plate. Now, I don't know what the point of that was, whether, you can have pine tar all the way, from the length of however wide home plate is. That's okay. But if it extends past that, and then the umpire walks over and looks down the bench, points at Brett, and this is the scene you get. Brett just charging out at the home plate umpire, and just, it was in Yankee Stadium. Of course, the fans were loving it because Billy Martin had got the out, and I think it was a 2-run home run that he had. But it's just one of those things. Very, very funny. And then probably one of the ones another one that I really enjoy is good old Robert Montgomery Knight. Who could forget? You talk about getting your money's worth with the rosin bag. Knight always got his money's worth, always. And of course, the chair incident, that was, I think that was a game against Purdue. I think that he just lost his mind and just throws the chair all the way across the floor. Like he's trying to knock down the official like a bowling pin or something. But yeah, he got escorted. He got tossed at that point. But yeah, all of those are great examples of really good ejections. And you can YouTube the minor league baseball ejections. To me, are the best, because those guys got nothing to lose. I mean, and they are
right.
Boy, but sheesh, don't let your kids watch them. Man, it is expletive heavy with those guys. They don't hold anything back. All right. So human interest, I just thought I'd pull this out. We got a lot of people out there that listen to our show. They're big Marvel fans, or you're a DC guy or Marvel or whatever. Growing up, it was kind of, for me, it was DC. So you had like Super Friends and all that stuff. We talked about those cartoons and stuff like that. Who would you choose? And for me, that's a no-brainer. I would always choose Batman over Superman. So the question is, Batman or Superman? Who do you go with? I would always go Batman, because he always had, number one, he had a blue cape, which blue's my favorite color. So we're going to go with blue. We're going to keep it simple. As a child, we keep it simple. If you were a sports team and you're blue, then thus the Dodgers. Okay. If you're a superhero, you had blue on, then you were my guy. So Batman, no real superpowers, okay, but he had the coolest gear. He had the Batmobile. I mean, he had the jets, the cycles, the utility belt with all the gadgets and gizmos on it. And it always seemed like he had to outthink, the villain. And I don't care what you say, I think Batman had the best villains. I mean, you starting with the Joker. I mean, heck, Joker, Riddler, all those guys in the comics growing up. This is before the movies and everything. Penguin, all those guys existed in the comics when we grew up.
Yeah.
But, and for me, Superman was just, okay, he's the strongest guy. If there was ever an issue, you just, okay, well, let's call Superman. He'll, cause the Earth to rotate backwards in reverse time or whatever. He can, use his heat vision or whatever. It didn't seem like anything was a challenge for Superman. Batman had a little bit more adversity. I don't know. What do you think, man?
I mean, I think you're 100% correct. I mean, if you say, who would you rather be in real life? I think flying is pretty cool. I think the vision thing was pretty cool. But you got to think of it this way. Batman, Bruce Wayne, multimillionaire. He could get – that's a big positive in my book. The guy could do whatever he wanted, right?
Yeah.
And Superman, his vacation home was up there in the Arctic North. That little – who wants to go there?
Yeah, nobody wants to go there. It's too cold.
Batman never really needed a job. I don't know what he really did. He was a philanthropist, right? And
he was philanthropist, head of Wayne Enterprises.
Wayne Enterprises. Oh, yeah, there you go, buddy. Yeah. Superman had to get a real job.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. I mean, it's the
guy was working 9 to 5, man.
Yeah.
And
hardcore.
I mean, but give Superman credit, man. He was juggling, both Clark Kent and Superman with Lois Lane. So it's kind of like having, 2 girlfriends, trying to juggle 2 girlfriends. I mean, this guy was having to go back and forth and trying to, Lois really liked Superman more than Clark. But, just the funny things about it that are interesting. But I would rather have Superman's powers, but I'd love to live like Batman for sure. But you got to think of it this way. Batman didn't really have a lot of friends.
He couldn't have a lot of friends. But the thing about it, he's got, he's a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
He's got the Bat Cave, for crying out loud, right?
For sure.
And all the awesome gear, all the awesome stuff.
And the one thing you definitely mentioned was the enemies of Batman were way cooler. I mean, Superman's biggest enemy, Lex Luthor. I mean, the guy was a normal Joe.
I mean, powers.
And the kryptonite thing was always kind of that was the only thing that was going to stop him. Where do you get it? What's going on? But yeah, you talk about adversity, and you say Batman. I have a utmost respect of Batman, all the way from Adam West. Never forget the original Batman.
Yep, the original one.
So,
and too, like the creation, like the story.
Yeah.
How Batman became Batman is just, I mean, and of course Hollywood's used the movies to, make it, really hone in on it. But the fact that he is an Avenger, he is the Dark Knight. He is, he wasn't the Dark Knight until, much later in our lives. But he did that because of, he wanted to be sort of this, vigilante, that sort of thing, because of his parents and that sort of thing, which I don't know. I like that better than the Superman. Hey, look, our planet's dying. We're going to send you to Earth. Okay. In some pod, and you're going to land in Kansas or whatever. And some people are going to raise you and not ask any questions. I don't mean,
it's not as believable, right?
It's it's not as real as the Batman story. But anyway, again, our 50th episode coming to a close here. Appreciate you guys listening in. We'll be back with number 51 tomorrow. We'll have that posted and up on all of our platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify. And also we'll have it on our YouTube channel, as Brees has still got the bubbly.
Let's go celebrate, boys. One for the boys. Here we go.
Yeah. And follow us at D3 Sports on Twitter. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow. Check out the episode over here on the screen, and you can click on that. Also, click on our picture below to subscribe to Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul. Any last words, Brees?
Hey, it's been a quick 50, and how we first started this thing, we were just kind of joking around and doing it, and now it's kind of evolved a little bit. Who knows what's going to happen in the next 50?
You never know. You never know. All right, guys, we appreciate you listening, and we'll get with you tomorrow. You've been listening to Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul.